We've just had a very eventful qualifying session for the Canadian Grand Prix, and I am joined by Tomo. How are you doing, Tomo?
I'm good, Tomo. It's about time. Yeah, we decided to restructure the business, and I've come in to replace a certain Matthew Gallagher for the... No, this is a one-off, don't worry. Matt will be back soon enough. It's a pleasure to be here, mate. Thank you for having me.
Who are you, for those that don't know who you are?
I am yet another F1 YouTubeist who likes to spout his opinion on the internet under my Tomo YouTube channel primarily.
But let's start with Q1. It was that classic kind of session where it's a wet track, it gets drier and drier, and then it's a case of last across the line is essentially the person that, gets the best laps. Out in that session was Tsunoda, Gasly, De Vries, Sargent, and Zhou Guanyu. And I think the main moment that we have to talk about is that moment with Gasly getting massively blocked by Sainz. Surely slam dunk penalty on the way to Sainz.
I mean, you look at the onboard from Carlos's point of view, and he is barely moving because he's ahead of, I think it's Tsunoda behind him. Tsunoda sees that Gasly's coming like a bat out of hell behind him and tries to kind of overtake Sainz to not be in the way. But yeah, Sainz is kind of a rolling roadblock. And yeah, it wasn't the first time either we saw issues at that final chicane. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if has there been confirmation if there's a penalty yet, Tom? I've not seen
yet.
It.
I'm sure by the time this video goes out, it will be. It seems like it's a slam dunk, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, Gasly, ironically, it's Gasly being blocked after he blocked twice in the last, was it Sainz? I think it was Sainz, So has he got revenge there? Ferrari need to be on talking to their drivers a bit more clearly about the blocking because, it's not looking good for Sainz. What might have been for Gasly, and he was absolutely fuming. We didn't hear.
So.
Yeah,
rightly
rightly
so. I mean,
so.
that was scary as well. Like he had to get out of it last minute. That's the quickest part of the circuit as well. The adrenaline's flowing. Yeah, that could have been a really scary accident.
Let's get on to Q2, another one where it was all about being on the right tyres at the right time. Someone that did that was Mr. Alexander Albon. Absolutely nailed the strategy, nailed the lap, and he was P1 in Q2 for Williams. Epic stuff.
He was. Yeah, he was the first to go on the soft, wasn't he? You saw the sea of inters in the graphic, the sea of eyes, green eyes, and he was the one little red S. And it wasn't even his first lap either. It obviously took a few to get a bit of temp into the tyres, and you had that one dry line. He delivered the lap. Look, listen, Tommy, you got to take these wins as an Albon Williams fan. Quite the Q3 that it could have been. Nevertheless, he set the trend. It's actually what Alonso was right up there on the inters. So Alonso was only like a second behind Albon, I think, on the intermediates. But it was changing so much, the weather. So
Williams got it spot on. They were the only team to do it, like you say, to put Alex on the soft tyre at the start and then essentially, wind in, because we saw, and we'll go into this, a lot of other drivers who seemed to just be not knowing what to do. And it seemed like everyone kept kind of going to inters and then it would rain and then it'd be like, no, it's time for slicks now. And then they'd get onto the slicks, it would rain. Oh, put the inters on. Oh, it's now drying out. And it kept just changing all the time. And that meant in Q2, we had some big names out. Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, Magnussen, and Bottas. Let's start with the first one on that list. Charles Leclerc, out in Q2. We don't have Matt here, but we did do an impression of him.
Oh my God! Charles out! Why do you do this to me, Charles? Why?
So for any doubt that Matt was the, bad luck for Ferrari, they're still awful.
You know what was funny? Because when we were watching, I could see Alex was on the soft and everyone else was on the inters. And it was playing team radio of Leclerc telling the team, I need to be on a slick tyre, and super late to react. And the quotes from Charles, I don't know why we stayed out on the intermediates on a dry track. We went on slicks when it started to rain. This time it wasn't hard to reach that. It was a dry track. I said that on the outlap. Yeah, Charles has had enough. And you know what? Fair enough. Like, he was calling for it. He did get it. And he's P11 and out in Q2.
How many times has he been calling for these incidents? You could argue that, maybe could have got a better lap in when the tyres were right at the start. On Inters, we saw, Fernando Alonso put in a good lap. I think the problem for Ferrari was they kept changing their mind, and then it was all too late. We've got a question from Diamondback NL. Should Leclerc leave Ferrari? Again, he makes the call to change tyres and his engineer denies him to pit for slicks at the time the fastest times are set. I mean, that's a bit extreme, but at the same time, he's done. Like, how many times have we seen him arguing just constantly?
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? It's Ferrari. It's the big move, the dream move that he always wanted. It's the team that everyone wants to drive for, and there is that degree of, there's that romantic attachment. He obviously wants to make it work at Ferrari, and Fred Vasseurs come in. He's made certain changes. You've got I don't know. I really don't, because the thing is, if Charles does leave, and then Ferrari do deliver on this potential that they've had for so long, then that would break his heart, surely. But at the same time, a driver of his quality to be struggling where he is in the championship, it's 4-4 him and Sainz in qualifying, and you can't tell me that's because of pace.
So far down in the title as well. He's not going to leave until a Mercedes or an Aston Martin, I think, seat arrives, because otherwise you're just doing a backward step. On to the guy that's behind him on the grid, Sergio Perez. Shocking, really. We've got a question from Jamie Roelf C8. Why is Perez washed? I mean, straight to the point. He has 3 back-to-back Q1 and Q2 exits and didn't get onto the podium when Max earlier in the season didn't make it to Q3. He got back to second in less than half the GP. Yeah, Perez is under a lot of criticism at the moment, and you've got to say it's justified because his teammate is miles clear. Everyone's complaining that the car is too good, and Perez is, well, he's not even making Q3.
The car's too good in the hands of Max Verstappen. Max is in the right place to deliver that lap time. Checo wasn't, I don't know how much. I don't want to fully jump on Checo here because, maybe Red Bull did somewhat let him down in terms of track position. But at the end of the day, there's no smoke without fire. And what it's been, is this now the third non-Q3 in a row?
Third in a row, fourth of the season. And you've got to think, in that car, the one that everyone is complaining needs to, if anything, be pegged back. Not a great look. I mean, if it's bad luck, it's a lot of bad luck, but it's got to be some self-inflicted as well, right?
Max is driving on such a level at the moment. It's hard to. I don't want to be too harsh on Checo because he is in this seat against Max, who just seems to be driving like an absolute android at the moment. But would Red Bull rather him be closer to Max and then potentially taking points off of each other and maybe let Fernando Alonso through?
No, I don't know. That's the thing. Like, all they need is him to pick up the constructors title, which, with the greatest of respect to Checo, like a lot of drivers on the grid would be able to do that. Christian Horner's comments, we spoke about this on the watch along. An unusual comment from Horner that basically said that now Perez has kind of dropped back, the pressure's off, which is, you could take it two ways. Is it trying to be nice, or is it saying like, oh well, Checo, you don't need to worry about the championship anymore. Now Max is clear, you can just kind of calm down a bit. Very strange comment, that one.
I don't know. I don't really know what that means as such, but I just think Checo, it's a shame that early season promise hasn't been realised.
Let's get into Q3. Dare I say this one was a little bit disappointing. We had the brilliant sessions in Q1 and Q2 where the track was getting better and better and things like that, but this one we had the opposite, where it was all about those first laps and then the rain came down too much and you couldn't really improve, which is always a shame because it becomes a bit of an anticlimax. Another anticlimax was the fact that Max Verstappen was 1.2 seconds clear of the entire field. Did I not say at the start of our watch along that this is either going to be the closest session we have all year and someone will finally challenge Max, or he absolutely obliterates everyone? And it was the latter, because he did exactly the same last year in Canada, wet weather. He's got a fantastic car underneath him. He's driving with amazing confidence. If anything, it means that he's even further ahead and can pull his advantage even more.
It's more the fact that, you had obviously Oscar had his incident. The rain stepped up, as you went through noticeably. You could see it on screen, the rain coming down more and more and more. So Red Bull getting Max out first in that queue was everything.
We've briefly spoken about him, but yes, the big story, of course, Nico Hulkenberg, P2 in a Haas, snuck in the lap, must have been a millisecond before the red flag because, Piastri binned it in the wall. Hockenberg popped into P2, and then the red flag was like immediate. I mean, what a lap. Brilliant lap. And just once again, proving that he is so good in these conditions.
And he's just great over a lap, Nico. He's proved it time and time again. Very underrated driver, and he's proven it once again that he's in a Haas that's very inconsistent. You can rely on him over a lap to bring the goods.
We'll get to tomorrow, and part of us will be thinking we'd love to see Nico send it on Max and get into the lead. But at the same time, for the good of the race, it's probably more likely that Fernando Alonso would challenge if he got ahead of Nico.
You know, Nico has to drive an intelligent race, because this could end up paying dividends massively by the end of the season. Him starting P2 and, like you say, falling down to P7, 8. You know, P8, that's 4 points, which could be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, I think that is it, mate. Thank you very much for joining me on this podcast and the watch along earlier. Thank you very much, mate. Give a little shout out where people can find you if they're listening to you for the first time.
You can find me on YouTube, Tomo, Tommo, nice and simple. And Twomo, because Twitter Tomo, no one knows what it means. Twomo F1 on, only W's on Twitter. Yeah, that they're the main places you can find me.
Thank you, everyone, and see you next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.